are the uses of architecture? How does it function? This is just my musing on the subject, so you might run into other art historians who would talk about different uses. But I just try to give you a sense of to me, how I see architecture being used, right, throughout the history of art. The first major way you can think of how architecture is used, of course, is for gathering. Places for gathering, let's say. And I try to pick out something that is sort of typical, like an opera house, and then maybe something a little more contemporary, a little bit more unusual. So the first example here, and again, different professors could use different examples. I've just picked out ones that come to my mind or excite me or make me think of the topic. I picked for you guys here the Palais Garnier, and this is an opera house in Paris, France. And you'll notice that the architectural style itself is, I'd say, very traditional in nature. It's very straightforward as far as a style is concerned. Here's the inside of it. You'll notice it's very decadent, it's very ornate. It's a place for people to come and see the arts. And I think that the design of the building embraces that. But you can also think of something more contemporary to our time, like the Denver International Airport. I picked this airport because when it was designed, it was considered quite revolutionary. For instance, the exterior that you're seeing here, this is Santiago Calatrava, a very famous architect. He did this interesting parachute, almost tent-like ceiling where it was meant to mimic the idea of the mountains in the background. So it was meant to actually mimic the topography of the actual region, which I think is an interesting approach. But airports are someplace that we gather. One would say whether we want to or not, right? Sometimes it can be pleasant, sometimes it can be unpleasant. But it's a place where contemporary humans gather. So where maybe humans in the 1800s would have gone to the opera, now today we go to the airport, right, to get from one place to the other. So again, just another place to gather. Architecture, of course, is a place to live. You think about the things that humans need. And one of our main things that we need is a place to shelter us. So this is a very important function of architecture. And you can, again, look at things that are very traditional, like this Dogon village in Mali in Africa, made out of earth as a material, very much a part of its environment. And you can also think of something like the Farnsworth House, which was designed by Mies van der Rohe, who is a very important modernist architect, so someone functioning in the early 20th century. And you can look at both places and think about how they're both places that people live. I like showing this one because it shocks students, and they're like, well, how did these people have any privacy? And I say, well, modernist architecture was about sort of clarity of living. They often said things like, their famous phrase was form follows function. So form follows function. So they didn't believe that space should have any extraneous detail. Go back and look at the opera house. There's a lot of extraneous detail there. There's a lot of just, ornate encrusting of the space to make it look beautiful. Modernists liked sharp lines, straight lines, right? They said they wanted their buildings to have clear, unencumbered logic. So the building should be functional. It should do what it needed to function, nothing more, nothing less. But again, I show this to students and they go, how the heck could you live there? There's no privacy. So it shocks them a little bit. But both of these spaces are places where we might live. Architecture also supports business, places for business, right? We have to go places to buy things. And so the earliest example I might say of this is the Roman Forum, which was filled with, of course, places for people to do their business, but also temples and monuments related to the Roman emperors. These are the ruins, of course, today. This is an architectural reconstruction of what the Roman Forum probably looked like during its own time. So notice just today, like a modern marketplace, right? This very vibrant space where people would go and get together. Now we can jump forward to our time and look at something like the Millennium Mall in Caracas, Venezuela, and think about how today we design places for business. And I'm using commerce here. We also can maybe think about the question of, will we have spaces for commerce much longer? Because if you read most things in the news about shopping malls, the diagnosis is not good, let's say, for the patient there, because most malls are sort of dying out. A lot of people shop online now; they don't shop in a physical place. So, is this something that after hundreds of years of us gathering somewhere like this to shop, we won't be doing this much longer? But you'll notice this is a very revolutionary structure as far as its design, its look, and I'm sure the Roman Forum at its time was considered very revolutionary as well. Places for worship. We've been gathering as humans to worship since the time of cave paintings. So where does architecture fit in there? I'd say that one of the primary reasons architecture is designed is for worship. Whether you're looking at a pagan temple like the Greek Parthenon in Athens that you're seeing here, or you're looking at a Buddhist stupa like the one from Borobudur in Java in Indonesia. These are places that are designed for people to come and for them to worship. Or let's say Chartres Cathedral in Paris, France, where, again, Christians would have came during the Gothic period of the medieval to gather, right, to worship. Notice that the design elements are all very different here, but again, these are all places of faith for people. Another Gothic cathedral, Reims Cathedral in Paris as well. In Islamic space, the Dome of the Rock. It's another good place to think about worship. Here's the interior of the Dome of the Rock, right, in Jerusalem. So worship has always been, I think, a very important part of why we as humans create architecture.